Sarah's contractions had been coming steadily for the past 3 hours, each wave more intense than the last. She gripped the hospital bed rails, her knuckles white as she breathed through another surge of pain. The delivery room felt eerily quiet, except for the rhythmic beeping of monitors and her labored breathing. "Where is he?" she whispered to her sister Emma, who had been holding her hand since they'd arrived at the hospital at dawn. Emma checked her phone again, her jaw tightening. "Still nothing. I've called him 12 times. Sarah closed her eyes, trying to push away the growing knot of betrayal in her chest. Marcus had promised he'd be there. For 9 months, through every doctor's appointment, every ultrasound, every late-night bout of morning sickness, he'd sworn that nothing would keep him from witnessing their child's first breath. But last night, everything changed. His business partner Jake had called with news that a potential investor wanted to meet on his yacht in Miami. The meeting could secure the funding for Marcus's tech startup, the company that had consumed every spare moment of their relationship for the past 2 years. "It's just for the day, babe," Marcus had said, throwing clothes into his overnight bag. "The baby isn't due for another week. Dr. Martinez said first babies are usually late. I'll be back tonight, tomorrow morning at the latest." Sarah had felt the first twinges of labor pain as his Uber pulled away from their apartment building. Now, as another contraction built to its peak, Sarah realized she was facing the most important moment of her life without the man who had put her in this position. The irony wasn't lost on her. He was literally on a pleasure cruise while she endured the intensity of bringing their child into the world. "Mrs. Chen." Dr. Martinez entered the room, her calm presence immediately reassuring. She'd been Sarah's obstetrician throughout the pregnancy, and her steady demeanor had always made Sarah feel safe. "How are we doing?" "She's been in active labor for hours," Emma answered when Sarah couldn't speak through another contraction. "And the father is unavailable." Dr. Martinez's expression remained neutral, but Sarah caught the slight tightening around her eyes. In her 20 years of practice, she'd seen it all. Fathers who fainted, fathers who couldn't make it due to military deployment, fathers who simply weren't in the picture. But a father who chose not to be there? That was something else entirely. "Well, then," Dr. Martinez said, pulling on her gloves, "let's focus on you and this baby. You're going to do beautifully." As the hours stretched on, Sarah found strength she didn't know she possessed. Emma coached her through breathing techniques while nurses rotated in and out, checking her progress. Each time someone asked about notifying the father, Sarah's resolve hardened a little more. Around 3 p.m., as Sarah entered the final stage of labor, her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Through her exhaustion, she managed to read it. "Investor. Meeting going amazing. Yacht is incredible. We'll call you tonight. Love you." Emma saw Sarah's face change as she read the message. Without a word, her sister took the phone and turned it off. "You don't need that energy right now," Emma said firmly. "Focus on meeting your daughter." Sarah nodded, tears mixing with sweat on her cheeks. At that moment, she made a decision that would change everything. At 4:47 p.m. on a Tuesday in October, Lily Rose Chen took her first breath. Not Lily Rose Morrison, as Marcus had assumed she would be named. Not a hyphenated Chen Morrison, as they had briefly discussed. Just Chen, Sarah's family name, carrying forward the legacy of her grandmother who had immigrated to America with nothing but hope and determination. Sarah held her daughter against her chest, marveling at the tiny, perfect fingers and the way Lily's dark hair caught the afternoon light streaming through the hospital window. In that moment of pure love and exhaustion, she felt more complete than she ever had, and simultaneously more alone. "She's absolutely perfect," Emma whispered, tears streaming down her face as she photographed the first moments of her niece's life. "Look at those little cheeks." The birth certificate paperwork sat on the bedside table, waiting to be completed. When the registrar had asked for the father's name and the baby's surname, Sarah had felt a moment of hesitation, but then she remembered Marcus's text message, the casual dismissal of the most important day of their lives, and her pen moved decisively across the paper. Lily Rose Chen, born October 15th. Father. Unknown. Unknown? Emma had questioned quietly when she saw the form. He made his choice, Sarah said, her voice steady despite the emotional earthquake happening inside her chest. He chose a business meeting over his daughter's birth. If someone asks him where he was when his child came into the world, what's he going to say? That he was networking on a yacht? Marcus finally called that evening, his voice bright with excitement and champagne. Sarah, babe, the meeting was incredible. This guy is going to fund the entire Series A round. We're talking millions. This changes everything for us, for our family. She's here, Sarah interrupted. A pause. What? Who's here? What do you mean? Your daughter. She was born at 4:47 this afternoon. The silence stretched across the phone line like a chasm. Sarah could hear party sounds in the background. Laughter, clinking glasses, music. The soundtrack to his priorities. But you weren't due for another week, Marcus stammered. The doctor said first babies are always late. I thought I had time. Babies don't follow schedules, Marcus. Life doesn't follow schedules. But you know what? It's okay. We managed just fine without you. I'm catching the next flight home. I'll be there in a few hours. God, Sarah, I'm so sorry. I thought, don't. Sarah's voice cut through his panic. Don't catch the next flight. Don't rush back now. You made your choice when it mattered. Lily and I were fine. Lily, he repeated softly. We were going to name her Lily. Lily Rose Chen, Sarah said clearly. That's her full name. Another pause, longer this time. Chen, but we never really decided about last names. You assumed wrong about a lot of things, Marcus. When she hung up the phone, Sarah felt surprisingly calm. The anger was still there, simmering beneath the surface, but it was overshadowed by something unexpected. Relief. For 9 months, she'd been planning a life with someone who had just shown her exactly where his priorities lay. Better to know now than 5 years from now. Emma stayed with her that first night, helping with feedings and diaper changes, marveling at every tiny sound Lily made. They talked in whispers about everything except Marcus, focusing instead on the miracle sleeping in the bassinet beside Sarah's bed. Marcus sent flowers the next morning, an enormous arrangement of roses and lilies that dominated the small hospital room. The card read, I'm sorry, I love you both. We need to talk. Sarah asked Emma to donate the flowers to other new mothers in the ward. 3 months later, Sarah sat in her childhood bedroom at her parents' house, watching Lily sleep in the same crib she had used as a baby. The morning sun filtered through the yellow curtains her mother had hung decades ago, creating dancing patterns on the wall that fascinated her daughter during awake times. Moving back home hadn't been part of the plan, but then again, raising a baby alone hadn't been part of the plan either. Her parents, David and Lynn Chen, had welcomed her and Lily with open arms and minimal questions. They'd seen Marcus's true colors long before Sarah had been willing to acknowledge them. He called again, her mother said softly from the doorway, holding a cup of jasmine tea, the same tea Lynn had brought Sarah every morning since she'd moved back home. Did you tell him what we discussed? I told him you weren't ready to talk, and that he should respect that boundary. Lynn sat on the edge of the bed, studying her daughter's face. But honey, he is her father. Eventually, he chose not to be her father when it mattered, Sarah said, accepting the warm cup gratefully. I know that sounds harsh, but Mom, he chose a business meeting over witnessing his child's birth. What does that tell you about his priorities? Lynn nodded thoughtfully. She'd built her own successful accounting practice while raising 2 children, and she understood the delicate balance between ambition and family. It tells me he's still learning what matters most. Over the past months, Marcus had tried everything. Daily phone calls that went unanswered. Text messages that ranged from desperate apologies to angry demands for access to his daughter. He'd shown up at Sarah's old apartment only to find new tenants. He'd even tried reaching out through mutual friends, but Sarah's inner circle had closed ranks around her and Lily. The tech startup had indeed received funding. Marcus's gamble on that yacht party had paid off financially. But the cost had been everything else. "I've been thinking," Sarah said, shifting to face her mother, "about going back to school, finishing my master's degree in early childhood development. With Lily, I could study from home, maybe start an online consulting practice for new parents." Lynn's face lit up. "That sounds wonderful, sweetheart. Very you." It was true. Before Marcus, before the whirlwind romance and unexpected pregnancy, Sarah had been building toward something. She'd always been drawn to helping families navigate the early years of child development. Becoming a mother herself had only deepened that calling. "I want Lily to see me building something meaningful," Sarah continued. "Not just surviving, but thriving, creating something that matters." As if summoned by the mention of her name, Lily began to stir in her crib. Sarah set down her tea and lifted her daughter, marveling as always at how perfectly Lily fit against her shoulder. "Good morning, my beautiful girl," Sarah whispered, breathing in that distinctive baby scent that made her heart swell every time. "Ready for another adventure?" Lily responded with the gummy smile that had become Sarah's favorite sight in the world. Her phone buzzed with another text from Marcus. "Sarah, please. I know I messed up, but she's my daughter, too. I want to be part of her life. I want to be better." For the first time in months, Sarah didn't immediately delete the message. Instead, she studied it while Lily played with the buttons on her pajama shirt. Maybe someday they would have that conversation. Maybe Marcus would prove that he'd learned from his mistake. But it would be on Sarah's terms, in Sarah's timeline, when she was ready. Until then, she and Lily Rose Chen were writing their own story. One where love meant showing up, where priorities were clear, and where a mother's strength was enough to build a beautiful life. "What do you think, Lily?" Sarah asked her daughter. "Should we start our day?" Lily gurgled happily, and Sarah took that as a yes. Together, they headed downstairs to begin another day of their new life, complete, content, and ready for whatever came next.